Hello students, a very good morning. Today in this video session we are discussing electron transport chain. So this is just a general view, not about the whole video about the electron transport chain. So this is a general view, not a full video of electron transport chain. For that I'll make another video. So please watch this video before you're gonna hit electron transport chain topic. So now I will give you a overview about electron transport chain, what it is and all that. Actually in general, electron transport chain, there are so much of stuff to explain. For example, thermodynamics and all. As you are a MBBS student, which means a medical student, you need not to learn all of them, like thermodynamics called redox potential, thermodynamics first law, free energy and all that. But in general, you have to study all that in order to understand electron transport chain. So in this video is just I will give you a general view of electron transport chain. So here I wrote, actually in university exam, I forgot to tell you, in university exam electron transport chain question is very crucial. It will be asked as 5 marks, mostly 5 marks. Most of the universities in India, they ask this question as a 5 marks, not as essay. But sometimes if you are not fortunate enough, then it will be asked as essay also. So if you watch this video till the end, you'll be left with no queries about electron transport chain. So this is a general view, and in the next video I'll explain electron transport chain concept alone elaborately, and also you'll be given notes in the description below of the second video, electron transport chain. So you can see here I wrote the name electron transport chain, or it can be also called as a respiratory chain. So this is a general view. So why this is electron transport chain? There is a chain in our system, or you can say this chain will be present in our mitochondria. This chain contains 4 complexes, 1, 2, 3 and 4. In general, you write it as a Roman numbers. You mention as a Roman numbers, not general numbers. Okay, this whole chain like this chain is present, and through this through this chain, some electrons will be passed from the first complex start to the till the end. So electrons are passing through this chain. That's why electron transport chain. Electrons are transporting through this chain is called electron transport chain. Then why respiratory chain? Respiratory chain? Yeah. So in order to occur this electron transport chain, oxygen is required. So this is essential. Oxygen is essential. So where we use the respiratory or respiration, we use at lung level, because lungs accept oxygen and eliminates CO2. So since lungs are utilizing oxygen in the process of inhalation, we are using this as respiratory system. Here also this chain is utilizing oxygen. That's why we are calling it as respiratory chain, since it is using oxygen. I hope you got it, right? So now we move on to the further about like where does this electron transport chain occur, why this should occur in our body, what is the purpose of electron transport chain. First of all, actually electron transport chain is a concept, comes under a chapter called biological oxidation. Biological oxidation, remember, it's a very important chapter where you will see the production of ATP in our body. So the aim of this chapter is how in our body energy is getting produced, ATP. Okay, so ATP is getting produced in our body by these pathways, electron transport chain and chemiosmotic hypothesis. So by using these two mechanisms, we are generating ATP. These two mechanisms will come under biological oxidation chapter. So now in this video, we're gonna see only about the electron transport chain, not about chemiosmotic hypothesis. That we will see in the next video. Okay. Okay, now. Okay, I'll just give a as I told you that I will give you general overview. See here, mostly living organisms, they take carbohydrates, proteins, or you can also call it as amino acids, and then fats as foods, right? These are the food materials that we have. Basically we obtain these from plant sources, mostly from plant sources. Of course from animal sources also you can get, but mostly plant sources, right? So these are foods, which means what? Nature is producing carbohydrates, proteins and fat, which means these carbohydrates, proteins and fats well equipped with energy, by the nature, but we cannot extract the energy directly from the carbohydrates, proteins and fat. That's why we allow these carbohydrates, proteins and fats into the metabolism first. Okay, we allow them into the metabolism, and metabolism process the carbohydrates, proteins, fats individually or sometimes collectively and gives us ATP. In between these there are so many mechanisms called ETC to give us ATP. So that I will explain later. Okay, so as I told you, carbohydrates, proteins and fats are the major fuels of a body because they were well equipped by the nature. Energy is stored in these molecules. We need to extract them off. Okay, so now first, what we generally carbohydrates, protein, fat we take in a food. For example, if you eat a pizza, or for example if you eat a roti, what happens with the aloo curry, you can say potato curry or whatever, any tuber curry, which means you are eating almost all these contents, carbohydrates, protein, fat in these two ingredients. Once you had it, what happens? It will enter into the mouth. Okay, and from mouth, esophagus. Okay, from esophagus, what it does, the bolus of carbohydrate, fat and protein, it enters into the stomach. Got it? Stomach. From stomach it enters into the intestine, the bolus of the food, which means it's the digestion process of the food. Okay, from the intestine, the part called duodenum, the second part of the duodenum, the digestion process starts, which means carbohydrates will get broken down into sugars in the intestine, second part of the duodenum, and fats we generally take it as triacylglycerols, shortly TAG. They will be broken down as free fatty acids, and proteins we take it as complex as proteins and they will be broken down as amino acids. All these contents they broke down. This is called digestion. Okay, the process of converting complex biomolecules into simpler molecules called sugars, free fatty acids and amino acids. Carbohydrates will be converted to sugars, triglycerides will be converted to free fatty acids, proteins will be converted to amino acids. This process is called digestion. Once the digestion is done, these broken down products will be entered into the bloodstream. Okay, bloodstream, there are so many mechanisms through which these will be entered. In terms of fats, it will be entered into the lymphatic system first and then later into the blood. Okay, into the cells. Okay, whatever, I am just giving you general overview, not about this video is not about digestion. So I am directly saying sugars, fats, amino acids, they enter into the bloodstream. From the bloodstream, what they do is they enter into the liver. Okay, then liver distributes all these three ingredients called glucose, free fatty acids and amino acids. These three will they start entering into the cells. Okay, these three they enter into the cells. Okay, there are many mechanisms through which these molecules enter into the cells, but this, as I already told you, this session is not about the flow of molecules into the cells. For example, if I take one cell over here, let me zoom it out, the single cell, and what happens, this glucose, okay, this glucose, protein, or you can say amino acids, right? Sorry, after digestion amino acids were produced, and this is fat. Okay, first the glucose enters. As soon as glucose enters into the cell, what is the first cell organelle? You can see first part of the cell is a cytosol. In the cytosol, glucose entered. So as soon as glucose entered in, this glucose will be involved in glycolysis. Glucose undergoes glycolysis. After the glycolysis, at the end of the glycolysis, we will obtain pyruvate. Okay, pyruvate. This pyruvate will be converted to acetyl CoA. Got it? Acetyl CoA. Up to here, I hope you understood. So glucose entered, and glucose undergoes glycolysis, and glycolysis, the end product of glycolysis pathway is pyruvate. Pyruvate will be converted to acetyl CoA. There are a lot of enzymes in between these glucose to conversion of acetyl CoA, but we'll explain all that in glycolysis concept. Okay, but in case of amino acids, glucose directly entered. In case of amino acids, these amino acids, they do not undergo glycolysis. Instead, they directly give us acetyl CoA. Okay, so amino acids, they directly give us acetyl CoA. Before giving acetyl CoA, amino acids, they undergo a process called transamination and all that I will explain in amino acid metabolism, transamination, deamination and all that. So all these are not required, but remember one thing, amino acids, they give us acetyl CoA instead of involving in the process of glycolysis and all. Glucose is the only molecule undergoes in glycolysis. Then what is left here among three fatty acids are there. So these fatty acids also, they give us acetyl CoA. Okay, remember fatty acids, they give us energy only during fasting. So they involve in metabolism during the starvation phase. Okay, now fatty acids, they directly ended up at acetyl CoA, and at the same time amino acids are also, they ended up. And glucose, it involves in glycolysis and then followed by pyruvate conversion and acetyl CoA. Whatever that may be, you took all these after digestion, and by these three you obtained acetyl CoA. Okay, the final product from all these three ingredients is acetyl CoA. That's why we call acetyl CoA as central molecule of the metabolism. Okay, central molecule of metabolism, acetyl CoA, because all these metabolisms, they ended up with acetyl CoA. From acetyl CoA, the real metabolism starts. Okay, let me just erase this off. So we just got acetyl CoA now from these three compounds. What we are doing here, actually we are in the process of extracting energy which is embedded in the glucose, amino acid, fatty acid by the nature. Got it? So in this process, we already done with digestion, and then absorption is also done, and these glucose amino acids will be they already uptook in the cell, and we got acetyl CoA as well. Okay, we are in the middle of this session. Now in the cytosol, this acetyl CoA, from the cytosol, this acetyl CoA enters into the TCA cycle. Okay, so TCA cycle, we all know it's a circular shape of cycle, or you can say the pathway also. Don't say pathway, it's a cycle. Okay, TCA cycle always will be in the circular form. This is how. Okay, what is the function of TCA cycle? TCA cycle is also known as Krebs cycle, as we all know. This TCA cycle crushes this acetyl CoA or breaks down this acetyl CoA, like this entire cycle almost you can see the 10 steps of this TCA cycle. All these 10 steps aim is to break down this acetyl CoA completely till the last carbon. So after this TCA cycle breaks up the acetyl CoA or crushes this acetyl CoA, the end product of acetyl CoA crush or breakdown is H2O and CO2. Okay, which means the energy which is embedded in the glucose, amino acid and fat is now in the acetyl CoA, and this acetyl CoA involved in the TCA cycle. Now the TCA cycle has a job to extract the energy from acetyl CoA. So this TCA cycle crushes this acetyl CoA, crushes up and extracted energy in the form of H+ ions. Okay, so energy is stored in the acetyl CoA in the form of H+ ions. So while acetyl CoA is just going through the TCA cycle, those H+ ions, they came out from the TCA cycle. Now these are the H+ ions. You can see here I'm just changing up the color. So here these H+ ions came out from the TCA cycle. Got it? Sorry to say that I forgot to say that where does this TCA cycle occurs. Where does this TCA cycle occur? Actually acetyl CoA produced in the cytosol, as we have already seen, this acetyl-CoA will be transported to the mitochondria. So this is a mitochondria outer membrane and this is a inner membrane. Now you can see the electron transport chain, the real concept came into the play now. So acetyl-CoA enters into the mitochondria, okay, mitochondria, and enters into the matrix. Now acetyl-CoA is here, okay, acetyl-CoA is here. So acetyl-CoA performs TCA cycle, okay, which means what? TCA cycle is occurring in the matrix of the mitochondria, okay. In the matrix TCA cycle occurs. At the end of the TCA cycle, what we get? After we crush up the acetyl-CoA, we get H plus ions, okay. I am just showing up here the TCA cycle separately. So this is a TCA cycle where acetyl-CoA completely got oxidized, okay. So the term is oxidation, acetyl-CoA oxidation through TCA cycle. After the oxidation is done, so in simple words you can say we are crushing the acetyl-CoA up to obtain the energy which is stored in it, okay. So after the TCA cycle, acetyl-CoA fully got crushed up or oxidized, and at the end from this side H2O, CO2 both will be produced, and from this side we got energy, H plus ions, okay. But there is a how we actually energy in the sense what we know is ATP is a energy, right? But here what I said, H plus ions. How can I say these? How can we say these H plus ions are energy? We cannot say these H plus ions are energy, right? So we have to convert these H plus protons into ATP, right? So these H plus protons into ATP. So this is where electron transport chain involves. So electron transport chain converts these H plus ions together with oxidative phosphorylation, or you can say chemiosmotic hypothesis. So electron transport chain in combination with chemiosmotic hypothesis converts this H plus ions into ATP, so that we can utilize ATP and we can walk, we can function, right? So now how it will be going. So we can see here these H plus ions, okay. Now there are two guys over here. They are very important in the entire concept. They are NAD plus and FAD, okay. Remember this NAD plus and FAD, these two guys they have a name called reducing equivalence or reducing coenzymes, okay. You can call it either of these names, okay. You can say NAD plus and FAD. From where you obtain these two? Actually NAD plus will you get this NAD plus from a vitamin called niacin, okay, niacin, and you obtain this FAD from riboflavin. Both are B complex water soluble vitamins. Very important shots that I will discuss later in the vitamins chapter, okay. Niacin derives the NAD plus, riboflavin derives the FAD. So to recall the name, see here NAD plus starts with N stands for niacin, okay, and in the riboflavin flavin starts with F and FAD also starts with F. So see, from now if you see NAD plus, you can easily say NAD plus, N stands for niacin. You can say them. Survivor question actually, they will ask you NAD plus derives from the vitamin niacin and FAD plus derives from which vitamin? Sorry, FAD derives from which vitamin? Riboflavin. So you say that one, okay, so that you can impress the examiner, okay, or viva asker. Now see these two guys, NAD plus and FAD plus, these two produced from vitamins niacin and riboflavin. These two coenzymes, these are in oxidized state, okay. These two are now in oxidized state. What they do is they go to the TCA cycle, okay. They go to the TCA cycle. This TCA cycle, in return, what the TCA cycle does is whatever H plus ions were produced by the TCA cycle will be given to the NAD and also FAD, okay. Now this NAD plus, first of all let me take NAD plus first, okay. NAD plus accepts this NAD plus accepts the H plus ions, two H plus ions. Then it will be converted to NAD plus will be converted to NADH plus H plus. Okay, this is oxidized state. And now after gaining the H plus ions or protons, you can say it is called reduced state of NAD plus, NADH plus H plus. Okay, now the remaining one is FAD plus. FAD plus also accepts H plus ions from TCA cycle. Now FAD plus, as it is initially oxidized state, after obtaining H plus ions from the TCA cycle, it will be converted to FADH2. Even FAD plus also accepts 2 H plus ions. NAD plus also accepts 2 H plus ions. Now FADH2 is reduced as NADH plus H plus. Got it? So at the end of the TCA cycle, after taking food and all that, what we got? Reducing equivalents. They are NADH plus H plus and FADH2. The whole energy is now in the NADH plus H plus and FADH2. Now we have to grab these two guys and we have to make these two guys pass through the electron transport chain. So which means electron transport chain utilizes this NADH plus H plus energy entrapped molecules by the TCA cycle. Okay, electron transport chain utilizes these two guys and extracts H plus ions from these guys. Okay, energy is in the form of H plus ions, right? These H plus ions will be extracted by the electron transport chain. Electron transport chain means, I already told you, electron transport chain has 4 complexes. Complex number 1, 2, 3 that I will discuss in later video. These 4 complexes extracts these H plus ions, and finally electron transport chain and together with the complexes extract the H plus ions and utilize them for the conversion of low energy, which is called ADP, into ATP plus PI. Okay, ADP means low energy, ATP means high energy. Okay, we are already in low energy state. These H plus ions have energy which is called, we can call it as high energy. Okay, whenever you have low energy and already there is a high energy, so this low energy gets a chance to grab the high energy from up and grabs it from the up, converts the low energy into high energy called ATP. So the process of conversion of ADP into PI is a separate topic called chemiosmotic hypothesis that we will discuss in the next video. Okay, electron transport chain and chemiosmotic hypothesis, both these two mechanisms together work and forms ATP. Okay, this is a general view of electron transport chain. You must have to watch this class from the first second to till the last one. Only then you can go for the electron transport chain class. So I hope you understood this class. If you understand this one, you can like it, share with your friends and subscribe it. Thank you so much.